what would be one piece of advice that you can give our viewers today? Well, welcome back to another episode of the Bamford Co Podcast. Today I have a good friend over the years that we've got to be friends, and also a home inspector, the owner of Pillar to Post, Brad George. Just wanted to bring you on here and want to give you, if you can give you a little introduction into your business, how long you've been doing it. Just give us a little background about who you are.
Sure, yeah. Like Ryan said, Brad George, Pillar to Post Home Inspectors. Been doing it since 2010. We provide home inspection and additional testing services throughout Saskatoon and area, Humboldt, soon to be Prince Albert, Rosetown, all the way down to Davidson now.
Wow, you're just expanding very quickly. I didn't know that. I don't sell things out there, so
right?
As much, right? So
hey, up north, couple cabins here and there.
There you go.
We'll have you covered.
Perfect. That sounds good. So many of our viewers, just to maybe give a little bit of a background here, is many of our viewers maybe haven't had a home inspection done, or maybe haven't had one for decades. Can you kind of lead us through, what a full home inspection entails today?
Well, it entails a lot of things. It's literally from the roof to the foundation and everything in between. We're looking at electrical, we're going in attics, we're going on roofs, mechanical, and testing everything in between, getting the moisture meters out. Nowadays, if you haven't had an inspection for a while, infrared camera, very good for electrical and hidden moisture issues. And then everything's online now. So home inspection reports are interactive now, 360 walkthroughs through them, and it's like a living document now, not just a paper binder anymore.
It's changed since my last printout of a home inspection that I had from you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
That's good. So, I know that, I walk through a ton of homes. I see the benefit of a home inspection. Why is it so important? And maybe you can give us maybe a couple examples of the things that you found over the years. Like, I think that would be a really good point for people to hear, just to explain why it's so important with some examples.
Right. A home inspector is trained in multiple disciplines. So, got to keep in mind that it's a visual, non-invasive inspection. We're the guest of the seller in the house, essentially. Right. But we are trained to pick up on visual clues that will sort of tell us, what's going on in places. For instance, not a lot of people, when they're looking at the house, are looking at the foundation right when they walk up to the house. They're looking at the windows, they're looking at the shingles, and oftentimes the foundation is completely not looked at. That offer comes in. Just the other day, I had to unfortunately tell the new first-time buyers that your foundation has all the signs that it's moved, cracked, signs of moisture intrusion. Sometimes a bearer of bad news, but save them a significant sum of money rather than moving into that house.
Well, for sure. I've learned a ton over dealing with you and Al over the years. I like to think that we don't get as many inspections that fail anymore because we've learned enough from you guys over the years.
Your eyes trained now too, yeah.
I'm learning. It's slowly but surely. Now, obviously those are some great things. What kind of requirements would like a regular home buyer be looking for? Like, I'm sure that there's a ton of different types of inspectors. Is there any specific things that are absolute must for, specifications that you're looking for in a home inspector?
Well, there is for me, and I'm slightly biased because I'm part of the association as well.
Okay.
It's the Canadian Association of Home and Property Inspectors. We call it CAPI for short. They're the only certification provider that looks at your E&O insurance. They provide the training. It's a proctored exam as well, rather than open book online exam.
Okay.
So an actual traditional test where you have an evaluator watching you, and it's closed, not open book on purpose.
How many would you say that majority of home inspectors in the city would have that? What is it, CAD? Is
Cappy.
Cabby?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it would most of them have that, or would you be a little bit different in that regard?
We're a bit different in
Okay.
that way. Everyone on my team at Pillar to Post is Cappy.
Okay.
And then there's only, I believe off the top of my head, maybe 2 or 3 more in the Saskatoon area
Okay.
that are Cappy inspectors.
So these other people could be open book testers.
That is 100% correct.
That's fair. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's a very good thing because I didn't really know that as well too. Like at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
I obviously picked somebody good that I didn't have to worry about in the past, right?
Thanks.
So one thing is that I've found is that obviously you go through, you do a full inspection on the property, and then we meet you at the end of the inspection, right?
Yeah.
I find it very helpful for us to do that walkthrough. Like is that typical that you do that with every person if they're in town to be able to do that?
100%. Yeah, that's part of the service that we're providing. It's good. Well, for me as a visual learner, myself, I want the client to know where this is, what the solution is, what the problem is,
Right.
and seeing it firsthand can really put that together for people, and it really can differentiate as well the big problem versus the small problem.
Right.
Right. We need a $500 fix here. It's not a $5,000 fix.
Right.
And the reverse too, where they can really see it, feel it, touch it. That, oh yes, this is a big problem. We need to look at this further and take some action on it.
Well, I know from my experience is that having that conversation with the clients yourself, it puts the clients a little bit more at ease rather than just reading something on the paper saying, hey, here's an issue.
Yeah.
Take a look at it. What's the solution? I think that we've been able to talk those out a lot of times and be able to just educate the client and say, this is something that's mandatory that needs to be fixed today, or this is something that's a progressive issue, right?
Right. Unfortunately, just almost like every industry, home inspection report needs to be written a certain way.
I understand.
Right? There's 3 or 4 parts to a comment. And it has to be written that way. That's the requirement.
Right.
When you get that walkthrough at the end, you can show them firsthand and they can remember the conversation when they're reading the report, so they can differentiate those big problems versus the small ones.
For sure. And we always suggest to our clients, our homeowners as well, is that keep the inspection, review it, because it's a good, it's a good checklist for people to be able to go through. There's a lot of moving parts when buying and selling property, and sometimes those small things get forgotten, right? So it's a good place to go back and use as a resource.
100%.
Yeah.
And new today too, as of next week, it's all going to be available online, fully digital, searchable as well now, and everyone will have their own portal where it houses everything.
Oh wow, technology just moving on up very quickly, hey?
Yep.
I like it.
Yep.
That leads me into the next part of the things is that I remember when I started real estate is that there was a big difference on the technology side of things on what you were using for equipment, right? How has that changed? What are some of the new things? Like you did mention, moisture meters and thermal. Thermals have been a big one that I always suggest to people, just because we can read a little bit behind the,
a little bit behind
between
the
the
walls.
lines,
Yeah.
What other things is that kind of the new stuff, or is it there other things that are new on the technology side of things?
Well, as we're progressing, like we started with moisture meters, that was the limit of technology at the time when industry.
That's when I started.
Right,
Somewhere around there.
Even back in the early 2000s,
Yeah.
moisture meter was it. Infrared cameras were still too expensive for people to buy. Now the prices of that has come down. Infrared still a great tool for moisture and electrical issues. Now we've progressed, at Pillar to Post, 360 home inspection.
Right.
So the report's integrated into a 360 view, which really lets people visualize the inspection.
So they could, so just so the viewer can understand, is that they would be able to kind of, just like a virtual tour, is it be able to pinpoint those locations, and then there'd be notes on those specific areas in that room, maybe.
Yeah, of concern.
Right
there, ready to go.
Okay.
And not really pertaining to inspection itself. The same technology can provide floor plans now, so they can better prepare for renovations, furniture placement. You can send a contractor for quotes. It saves them time, contractors time.
Right.
for all that sort of stuff. And I guess some of the new stuff coming out too is that it's only for the added testing, right? So
Okay.
now asbestos testing is getting a lot quicker. Mold testing, you know, sometimes it could come back same day now. And there's a couple other things on the horizon too, but
And that hasn't been the case. That was always something that if we had an issue, is it something we were extending conditions or dealing with those kind of things. So all those things play a factor from my perspective, you know, as being
for
a realtor.
sure. It helps everyone get to closing faster,
Right.
is what it is. You know, you guys and the buyers
Yeah.
as well, sellers at the same time too,
Right.
that they're not waiting for
Yeah.
anything
So we
anymore.
can go on and make an educated decision with the information that's provided already.
100%.
Yeah, yeah. That's what we're all looking for.
Yep.
So, you know, it's late fall at
Yep,
this time.
it
You know,
is.
I know that there's a couple things that I've done around the house to prepare for the winter.
Okay.
Can you give us, you know, maybe some tips or some things that must be done? You know, obviously it might be a little late for some people to do it, but there's
It
still
is.
time.
It's pretty cold out there right
agree.
now. It's a cold day. Not used to it yet. Should have done sprinklers already.
Right.
100%. You might have some cracked heads already if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Second to that is just turning off the water to those outside taps, drain them out, making
Right.
sure you're good to go. Another thing is, while we still have good weather, is check the grading around the house.
Right.
If you've got any low spots that might see a lot of snow melt in the spring, now's the time to protect your foundation for the spring. You know, get a little bit of dirt in, make sure it's sloping away from the house. That way when that big melt happens, it's not all concentrated at the foundation. And second to that, the next best thing you could do, especially if you live in an older home without any weeping tile, is getting that snow away from the house a good at least 6 feet. You know, blow it into the backyard, blow it into the front yard. Don't let it melt right at your foundation. And then, I mean, leaves are still falling, but if you can, get those leaves out of the gutters and leave those downspouts nice and far away as soon as you can.
I agree. Those are all the things that I did for the house
Yeah,
this year.
you passed the test
so I'm
then.
doing well. I practice what I preach, I
Right.
guess. You know, the big thing for me is that I live in a 1960s home. You know, and for me is that I always snow blow around the house and make sure that the water is leading away. And I know that that's, you know, depending on the era of home. When we're looking at 1960s, they wouldn't have weeping tile. Into the 70s, 80s, you would have some weeping tile that would probably go back into the drain. And then nowadays, with some of the new houses, you're going to have some sump pumps and that kind of stuff. But it is good practice to do the preparation.
For
it
sure.
goes a long way.
That's a good one too. Make sure that sump pump's working right now.
Right.
Make sure it's not blocked right now. Make sure it could drain itself out so it doesn't freeze over winter now.
Yep.
And then test that sump again right before the big melt happens in spring.
Okay.
Your house is relying on that sump.
For sure. I guess the other thing is that maybe throughout the winter, is it looking at just with all the high efficiency vents and exhausts, is it making sure that all the snow and ice has been knocked off there, so we're having proper airflow through the house.
Yeah, super common issue. Those high efficient furnaces, the intake and the exhaust can freeze up.
Right.
That'd be almost your number one thing to look at if your furnace wasn't turning on one day.
Okay.
That, and then go to the filter to see if it's dirty.
Right.
as
Maybe
well.
change that too. Hey?
Maybe change that at least every 3 months. You would hope.
Sounds good. Well, I guess that's not a fall thing. That's why we didn't bring it up, right?
Yeah, that's an ongoing thing.
That's good. So, if you were looking at, you know, first-time home buyer out there, what's one piece of advice you do? Maybe it's the type of inspection that you do. What would be one piece of advice that you can give our viewers today?
Well, it might come in a couple pieces.
Okay.
Attend the walkthrough. That's probably the most valuable information you're going to get from the home inspection. You're also, with us anyway, you're going to get on-the-fly maintenance tips, how things operate, and then just ask questions as you go.
Don't be scared to ask those
Don't
questions.
be scared
eh?
to ask. Yeah, we're
Okay.
always there. We're a resource. We're available, like, you know, after
Right.
you know, post-inspection too. If anyone has a quick question, or you know, they don't have a tradesperson or something, they can always call us and we can point them in the right direction.
Of course. So, Brad, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do so?
They do so on our website, pillartopost-saskatoon.com,
Okay.
or our office, 306-956-6760.
Perfect. Well, and we'll include those details in the, I guess, in the description part at the bottom. So basically, we've covered everything from what is a home inspection to maintenance tips for the fall here. Also talking about technology. This has been a great podcast here, Brad. Thanks for coming on. I'm happy to have you over and do it again.
Thanks, anytime.
Yeah, perfect.